Hello, I'm Valentin Mandaci from Historic Houses of Romania, Casa Epoch, and I would like to welcome you to my podcast regarding the architecture of Southeast Europe. And now we are focusing on the national architecture of Romania, the Neo-Romanian style, which is the most important contribution of Romania to the architectural world heritage. The Neo-Romanian style is the national style. It unfolded for 60 years between 1886 and the abdication of King Michael around in 1947, and these 60 years they resemble in many aspects a Kondratiev wave. Probably you heard about Kondratiev waves in an economics science context, for example, on documentaries on TV, or reading the Economist magazine articles or Financial Times articles, or properly studying or reading books on the Kondatiev cycles. It's a cycle of about, as I mentioned, of about 60 years, discovered or noticed and written in a structural way about them by a Russian economist in the 1920s, named of course Kondratiev, who noticed these cycles in the old economy, capitalist old economy. And architecture is the art most linked with the economic situation. We have flourishing architecture when the economy is flourishing. We don't have much architecture, or a very modest one when there is not much economy, or when it's a crisis. The building sites are stopping working, it's a crash, and so on and so forth. So is the art most linked with the economic cycles. Kondratiev's cycles, or waves as they are named, I personally like more the name waves, Kondratiev waves in human economics activity. Is not a concept widely accepted by economists or social scientists. Only a minority of them accept it, because nevertheless these waves are noticeable in human history, especially since the Industrial Revolution they were noticed. And it shows, and also since we have the proper modern capitalist world, which was again is a result of the Industrial Revolution. That's why Kondratiev, working in the Soviet Union in a type of Stalinism, and showing that the capitalism has a capacity to regenerate in waves, wasn't on the like on his Soviet master Stalin, and he was put in prison and shot. But it's a concept which is extremely interesting, and it's still a lot of work to be done on it. Amazingly enough, the Neo-Romanian style architecture goes within a wave like this, an economic cycle. And as I said, that the most pertinent explanation is that the architecture and the architecture of a country, national architecture of a country, coincides more or less with the economic development of that country. We have a few, let's put it that way, theories. What is the background of the Kondratiev wave, how it starts and how it ends. It starts with something quite timid, then is getting like a snowball effect, and it reaches a peak, and then a recession, a kind of declining. That is the economic cycle. And what has happened when the Neo-Romanian style started? That was in 1886, with the first Neo-Romanian style house designed by Ion Mincu, Casa Lahovary. It's a time when Romania is booming because of grain exports. it has money for agriculture. And also extremely important is land bubble. After the 1877 war, the government had to promise, during the war of independence, the government promised the peasants that they would give them land from the big aristocratic estates if they will fight well against the Ottoman Empire. That was the main reason why they fought so well, not patriotism. That is stupid nationalism. So they had to redistribute the land. The first massive redistribution of land in this land's history since the Roman Empire, the Roman conquest, basically. So then you have land available, land in a market. It's a bubble. It's something going on with the land transactions. And coupled with this and with the economic prosperity from the grain exports, you have a building boom. And with the building boom comes architectural styles. The most preferred and favorite architectural style at that time was Little Paris, emulating the architecture in the West, especially in France. But the first green shots of the Neo-Romanian style started exactly in that time with Casa Lahovary, which is in 1886. And as I said, it went over a technological cycle up until 1947, the abdication of King Michael. Let's look again at the technology in 1880s. In the 1880s, we were still having in Bucharest Ottoman building technology, basically a skeleton of wooden beams with burned into the courtyard bricks and lime mortar. And that was the time when these things were changed in the 1880s towards the 1890s. We start having the first cast iron beams skeleton of a house, the first wrought iron elements like balconies or gates or doorways, the first reinforced concrete elements like the basis of balconies in that time. So that is it's a technological revolution. It starts with the modern materials, or grass used for the first time on a meaningful scale in these houses, early Neo-Romanian style houses, as I call them. It's interesting because within this wave of 60 years, also Neo-Romanian styles has 3 stages of 20 years each, which also go with some kind of epochs, as they are called, within the Kondratiev waves. And these phases early, as I talked about this technology a few moments ago, they go with the technology, the evolution of technology. The early one is this change towards the modern technology. The as I call the apogee, the mature phase, is when the new building materials start to be used on large scale, and then everything is used like that. And then the last phase is basically high tech for building technology, but also undertaking a crisis, because apart from the technology squeaking, let's put it that way, being squeezed, is also economic crisis and war towards the end of this period. Let's have a look of how these houses evolved in technology within this Kondratiev wave, which I mentioned to you. I have here a few images for you. This one is from what I call an early Neo-Romanian style house. It's nearly vernacular, basically taking cues from old Ottoman architecture. It's in Buzău, this house. It uses Ottoman technology, building technology. Lime mortar, wooden structures, bricks burned into the courtyard, so very, very basic one. This one is the Brătianu Palace in Bucharest. Already is the 1880s. Already we have use of the new materials. Glass inside is steel beam structure and first reinforced concrete elements. The Neo-Romanian style coexists with the Little Paris style, as is seen over here. And again, the new technologies, you can see that they are starting to be used, like colored glass over here in this conservatory, this kind of glass conservatory, reinforced concrete, not in at a big scale, but at the important elements. Wrought iron, so the green shots of the new technology. And I have here also the first Neo-Romanian style house, Lahovary, which encompasses these things together. Then it evolves after 1906 in the mature phase, houses like this, very heavy actually. The technology was not yet up to scratch, but you could go on the vertical and be massive because the style required massivity. Is philosophy. A new Romanian style house has to be like a citadel, the idea of Romanians defending Europe against the Ottoman Empire. So you had industrially produced bricks this time, the skeleton of steel beams, reinforced concrete in essential parts, and many other modern technology elements for 1920s, for example. As I said, the early phase finishes in around about mid-1900, and the mature phase, in my opinion, starts in 1906 with the Royal Jubilee exhibition, when the pavilions there were in proper mature phase Neo-Romanian style. The architects came with new ideas, put that kind of canon that those houses have to be built in a certain manner, and also the exhibition wanted to show the new technologies, not only in the building industry, but in everything in the economy, to the world, to the Romanian public at that time. So 1906 clearly starts on new technological evolution phase within this wave, so which made possible this kind of houses, were this one, for example, another mature phase Neo-Romanian style house. Without that technology, which was heralded at that exhibition in 1906, you couldn't do houses like this. At best, you could do something like this, which is like a Little Paris or even like that. So you needed sophistication and good materials for the mature phase Neo-Romania. Then these houses can go even more up on the vertical with larger windows and much better provided as comfort inside as the interior design. And that is the third phase of evolution. I call it the late one, when it's the downhill of the wave of the cycle, of the Kondratiev cycle. We have this downhill because of the economic depression, 1929-1933. People afterwards start to be much more careful with their money. They want to invest wisely and to squeeze as much as possible from their money. So they start to employ this modern technology which are cheaper like reinforced concrete. This one is a product of the reinforced concrete. Also much better use of land, which in the previous stages was very expensive and bubble-like. Now the market stabilizes, land market stabilizes, and it's not that kind of free-for-all, like that kind of bubble what we saw at the end of the 19th century and round about the Great War. Other Neo-Romanian style, late Neo-Romanian style products are this one, which if you don't know anything about Neo-Romanian style, to look to you, Art Deco. So it's within that kind of epoch, or this Neo-Romanian style gate, which looks very modernist to many of you, but it's Neo-Romanian from that downhill side of the Kondratiev wave. Also, there are theories that the Kondratiev wave is 60 years, usually 60 years long. Apart from technology and land bubbles, is because it's of the demography. It's practical life cycle, an active life cycle. If people live 70, 80 years, 50, 60 years is the most active interval. So we have an entrepreneurial class which emerges in 1880s, and it's active in this kind of Neo-Romanian style environment up until the end of its active life cycle in the 1940s. And then the new generations which come, the new baby boomer or whatever you can call them, they were later, but the post-war generation, they come with completely different tastes. And it's interesting that there are many architects who are active within these 6 decades, who on a very large stretch of it. Architects, I noticed that many of them are having a long life, they live long, including the Romanian ones, many of them. And the ones who were active towards the end of the 19th century were very active even in the 1940s. People like Petre Antonescu, for example, one of the most productive Neo-Romanian style architects, or Victor Ștefănescu, who was the chief architect in the time of the Great Royal Exhibition and created up until the Second World War, even during the Second World War. So there are too many things which fit together, and we have already an economic concept, as I said, Kondratiev cycle. And I think it's extremely interesting to link this domain of the arts, which is architecture, with the domain of economics, which is Kondratiev waves or cycles, and to understand better the Neo-Romanian style architecture phenomenon. It's too uncanny that it's unfurled itself for nearly exactly 60 years, which is exactly Kondratiev cycle. It went into 3 stages, as these subdivisions of the Kondratiev waves are, again, very uncanny. And all of these stages are having to do with technology evolutions, with the evolution of the land market from a bubble to stabilization, and also to active life cycles of the participants in the market, in the society, from the proprietors who were able to invest in those houses to architects and builders who made that houses to exist, who erected those houses. So I hope that I gave you an interesting insight into this phenomenon, and this food for thought. Many other ideas and studies can stem from this. Thank you, and we'll see each other very soon. Bye bye.